You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Rolling. Don't use any of this. Don't tell me.
carry 3.
They love you. You know.
This is Princess Leia Organa. You're listening to Planet Leia.
Permission is granted to land on Planet Leia. Brought to you by Fantha Tracks. Here are your hosts, Clair Henry and
Johanna, Nybelius.
So we're talking about back to school.
Back to school.
September.
I've been back a month, almost, yes.
And, explain to everybody what your job is.
I work as a museum educator at the World Heritage Site and a historical mine in Sweden, in Falun. And yeah, so basically I take care of schools throughout the year. And then in the summer, I make sure that our temp staff knows what they are doing. And then I go on vacation.
That sounds like a great job. And I am what we call in England a deputy head teacher in a big primary school in the city centre of Coventry, and I oversee nursery, which I think you call kindergarten. Sweden was up there as one of the bastions of education.
Yeah.
With their system.
Yeah.
And now they're making it compulsory.
Yeah. So basically you will start at 6 nowadays. Everyone does it. So basically, it's just a name change to make sure that that first year is considered more school. It's not a stepping stone to school. It's actually part of the school.
And in England, the compulsory age to start school is 5. So that's interesting that they've changed all that. So in our education sort of heads on, because we are both had a nice summer vacation, we've both been busy doing all sorts of different stuff. Not much Star Wars stuff around.
No.
Summer.
And I was really on my most intense part of vacation when hits of the film Starfighter hit.
Yes.
With all casting news. So I almost missed that.
The image that's come out of that is incredible, isn't it?
Yes, but it's still like, it's in production, but until you really have a set date, I'm not going to trust that we're actually going to get a film. There have been too many false starts.
But I'm sure this one will start.
I'm thinking this one as well. And one of the most interesting things is the fact that they are saying that it's in an era that they haven't explored before.
The X-Wing pilot one that they announced with the director of Wonder Woman, that's been canned.
Yeah, that was canned. And I'm guessing this is, in a way, the replacement for that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that it hadn't even started filming. No. This is being currently filmed, isn't it, in England?
Yeah, the fact that they have fairly big names attached to it as well. I mean, it's not as easy to cancel a show or a film with nobodies, but now you have Ryan Gosling, Matt Smith, Amy Adams. You have well-known names. So.
I think the cast is absolutely great. Yeah. Matt Smith I really like. Amy Adams I really like. And obviously I really like Ryan Gosling. I mean, who doesn't like Ryan Gosling and all the films he's been in? He's got a real clout, and his humour. I think he's going to be a great addition.
And of course, what I'm hoping for is, of course, that it will be some kind of adaptation, or at least inspired by the old X-Wing books by Alston and Michael Stackpole, because those were great and they would make such good film. And when they're talking about an era they haven't explored yet, I mean, they haven't been in like what happens straight after Return of the Jedi. It would be interesting to have it set there.
Would make sense. And if you think about all sort of the spin-offs, they do sort of dip into the expanded universe, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, they sort of acknowledge it, and you've always been able to pinpoint bits from it that have been really, really good, haven't you?
I'm not expecting or counting on that it will be a straight off adaptation of them, but I'm hoping like the idea of setting up a group of starfighters that will free the galaxy and do like all the battles. Not everything ended with the Battle of Endor and we will see their adventures. I'm hoping for something like that.
I find it interesting that they showed like a land speeder. They didn't actually show a ship.
And I
thought
think
that was
that's
clever. I think they're hiding what the ships are looking like, aren't they?
because if they would show an X-Wing, everybody would know what era. If it's like a classic, old school, old trilogy X-Wing, you know it's going to be set there. If it's
Yeah,
one of the
or if
newer
it's one of
X-Wing
the
from the
pre.
sequels, people will pinpoint it's that kind of ship. It's set in this. I have hopes, but at the same time, I'm not gonna like clap until I have tickets in my hand.
2027, that's going to tie
Yeah.
in very nicely as well with a celebration, isn't it?
Yeah,
When's it due for
Yeah.
release?
May
Oh,
2027.
Mark Newbold and I were just talking about that there. April the 1st is celebration. So that would be right, release it about May the 4th.
No, end of May actually.
Oh, is it end
So,
of May?
End of May, yeah. Which of course can be changed. But so now what I saw is like end of May 2027.
So that's 2 full months from celebration. So we'll get a sneak preview, we'll get a trailer, that'll be
Meet the
interesting.
cast.
Yeah, that'll be good. That's a good timing. And the Coca-Cola tins?
I've heard about them. I've seen them on Fanta tracks and so, but I haven't seen them live really.
Oh, the artwork on them is something else. Stunning artwork on it. And it's a shocker that it's Coke. But I mean, Coke got themselves all into great publicity stunts. The whole find your name in a Coca-Cola bottle. Classy
I haven't found my
flag.
name yet. I'm guessing it's too long.
You can't find my name because it's not spelt right. There's CLAIRE and there's CLARE. There is no CLAIR. No E.
Yeah, I'm thinking Johanna, which is still it's a common name. I mean, it's one of in my yearage, it's one of actually the top names, but I haven't seen a bottle with them, so I'm guessing now too many letters can't fit it nicely.
So are the bottles in Sweden then got lots of Swedish names on them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I haven't managed to see Princess Leia in real life, but I have seen the image and it looks brilliant. Clever bit of marketing again, I feel. Had I been with Mark and Martin and Paul Naylor to see the Star Wars burlesque show the last time
No, I don't think so. You were talking about it, but you hadn't been there.
Well, let me just tell you a few things about that then. Who knew that you needed a Star Wars burlesque show in your life? Unbelievable. If it goes on tour and it comes to Sweden, go and see it.
I'm going to be the first. I'm guessing then I need to whip out my Kanken Troop or something.
Twi'leks, obviously, get a look in. So it is a very serious burlesque show. And it's really interesting because there are people there who are burlesque fans, and then there are people there who are Star Wars fans who don't know what burlesque is. And I've been to the Crazy Horse in Paris, and it is fantastic. It's one of the original burlesque shows. So I kind of knew what was coming up, but I didn't really know. The compere was fantastic. He was hilarious. And then the first tableau is a land speeder in Tatooine. Luke Skywalker, aka a woman, comes out in her tunic, carrying a basin full of soapy water, and starts cleaning the land speeder to, and I think it was AC/DC, and cleaning it in a very provocative way is what I'm going to say. Again, they asked that there's no photographs taken and to respect the dancers, which everybody did, and and everybody clapped along and cheered, etc., and all that. But it ends with Luke Skywalker, slightly not without the tunic anymore, her head in the basin of water, and then she flicks her hair back in a, that burlesque style, or no, I'll tell you, Flashdance. Did you ever see Flashdance?
Of course.
That comes back like that, and the lighting shows it that way. What I'm going to say also, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but who knew you needed a disco Death Star? I need a disco Death Star. I want one for my DJ sets. It was epic. Who was on top of the disco Death Star is somewhat incredible, and the song is a great choice. Modern. I'll give a clue and say Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter. you can imagine, and then but you'll never come up with what you see on top of that. And then, of course, there's the Han Solo Frozen Carbonite, there's Lando Calrissian, and there's the Twi'leks, and the Jabba the Hutt. Absolutely hilarious. And Slave Leia is there, giving it her all along with the Twi'lek. Just so funny. The actors and the dancers and everything are incredible. Some great merch at it too. Was very tempted to buy myself a sexy Stormtrooper t-shirt, but decided against it. There was also a Princess Leia one, I think. I decided against that. Princess Leia at one point looked a bit like Kylie Minogue in the Can't Get You Out of My Head video. But yeah, 2.5 hours of pure entertainment. And whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, you should go if you want to see what a burlesque show is about.
Sounds great.
And how they've got away with it. There must be somebody somewhere in Lucasfilm Limited has seen it and just said, you know what, just let it go. Because it's been in Vegas, New York, London, Paris. It's done loads of shows. And that's the other thing. It changes all your algorithms. It's on in Vegas at the minute. Portland, Oregon, I am assuming that is. Phoenix, Atlanta, Seattle, Chicago, Orlando, San Diego, Tampa, Houston, Miami, Orange County, Minneapolis, Louisville, San Jose, Cincinnati, Columbus, Los Angeles, Cleveland, Mexico City, Pittsburgh, Toledo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, San Francisco. Sorry, this is now going into where it has been. Ottawa in Canada, Sacramento, Denver, Hamilton, Toronto, Detroit, Vancouver. And in Europe, it's only been in London and Paris. However, it's been in Australia, in Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, Newcastle. And you can nominate your city.
Yes, I need to go and do that.
Go into the Empire Strips Back and nominate your city. I'm just looking at it now. There's Han Solo getting his blaster out of his holster. Imagine how he does that, Johanna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
Honestly,
go online and nominate Stockholm.
And you can see Luke Skywalker on the website as well. So I actually haven't spoiled it if you're going to go and buy tickets for it. But yeah, that was my Star Wars adventure this summer, was the Empire Strips Back. So our summer seems to have been somewhat lacking in Star Wars, but just wasn't as Star Wars filled as it has been. It's been a very quiet time, really, for things that we are interested in Star Wars. Anyway.
I'm guessing like Andor was such a huge thing that it's like we're now in the backwaters, like what's going to be the next? We're still living off Andor, which is so worth it.
I had to watch it again. It was blooming brilliant. I think I've watched it a couple of times.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So back to school. And when you look and do a little bit of research into schools in Star Wars, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And what I find so interesting, though, in that big of a galaxy, how do you compare school system? Because I mean, one thing I find really interesting is like, okay, because you have this talk about going to the Imperial Academy and other different academies. And I mean, they must recruit from quite a lot of different star systems. How do you compare the school systems?
Well, what you've also got to realise as well is that the Empire itself is a very bureaucratic, standards organisation. They must have, as we call it in England, an Ofsted inspectorate. They have to have that in the Empire. And
I'm guessing there must be some like very standardized testing. I mean, also what we see from the schools is so adapted for humans. I mean, we know what age they are, but I mean, all kinds of aliens and non-humans, probably they age differently, they learn differently. I'm guessing all of those must have different schools where they can teach according to what, which is then interesting when they all get together, like when they are grown up.
Yeah.
The end result is that everyone should know the same. And
adhere to the same. I wonder, we haven't seen a classroom, have we, in an Imperial?
Well, at Aten, which in Skeleton Crew.
But that's not an Imperial school, is it?
No, but it's still a school, and it wasn't exactly inspiring.
Well, it seems to be the way that all the schools in England are going back to.
Yeah.
chairs at tables. It doesn't seem to be the whole, we call it in school, the walkthroughs and all this sort of stuff, all the different learning styles and everything taken into account.
At that time, everything was like built up to make them conform and don't be individuals.
And that's true. And the teacher was a robot.
Yeah.
Might be one teacher out of many. I get the feeling that it seems a bit more high schooly than traditional primary schooling.
And of course, at that time, I mean, our point of view were the kids who didn't enjoy school. Maybe it was better if you liked school, but I mean, we only see how soul-crushing it was for all these adventurous young children who wanted to do something else.
And so then, if you move on to the Jedi school in Coruscant, it's got all the elements of a good school. It's got a good mix of mindfulness,
practical,
with their lightsaber school. Oh, Mr. Jedi.
But then, of course, I mean,
sorry,
the Jedi must really have a problem. I'm talking about different development from humans and everything. I mean, just think about Baby Yoda, Grogu. I mean, he's 50 years old and still a baby, and he's coming from the Jedi Temple. And by that time, a human would be a master. And I'm actually thinking that there are races where you probably have much shorter lifespans as well. We only hear about these races like Wookiees and everything. They get so old and several hundred years old. But I mean, there must be where you're old if you're 20.
And then if you go right back to the start of A New Hope, there's Biggs and Luke. Don't forget that, what age are they in Star Wars?
18.
18.
Biggs is a bit older.
So they're like upper sixth.
Luke is talking about applying for the academy, and Biggs has applied and gone off to the academy. I don't know if it's in the novel or something, or if it's been in some very old expanded universe that on Tatooine there was a lot of homeschooling.
There could be nothing but homeschooling.
Yeah,
in Tatooine.
They have some. There is something like that. They did have some schools, but a lot of it, like the teachers went there, they were remote, and the children from the closest homes there, they could gather, like in Anchorhead or something, you would have a school system, but you wouldn't have the teachers there. I'm not sure if this is true, but it's like something ringing in the back that there was some kind of remote teaching situation going on in Tatooine.
I couldn't imagine like sending, off you go, darling, catch the bus. I mean, there clearly is, because in Skeleton Crew, you see it. You see the school system and the very regimented system. But of course, that's the whole protection thing, isn't it, from the outside world. But I can't see Luke really have gone to kindergarten or anything like that.
No.
Like a very harsh life and an upbringing. But there must be something, because they talk about going to the academy.
But once again, you're thinking about, hey, there can't be too much standardization there, because if a little kid called Luke Skywalker on the planet Tatooine would I'm pretty sure that if that name was in some kind of imperial database, it would set off some alarms.
Of course it must.
Which I've always thought was the real reason, of course, why Owen didn't want to join Luke to join the academy, because he knew, no, not a good idea, you will be discovered. So I'm guessing you could slip under the radar with the school system on Tatooine, but Luke probably didn't know that.
Let's flip up to then Luke Skywalker becoming the teacher.
Yeah.
Not a great teacher.
Nope. Which maybe is because he didn't have any good examples. I mean, what do we know about it? If it was like a remote teaching without any present teacher, and then he gets Yoda, who's riding around on his back, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who dies off. I mean, he hasn't really had a lot of good teachers that he could be inspired by.
I almost imagine that Luke Skywalker, when he was in Tatooine, and I don't know whether you know this system or not, but in Australia, when you lived out in the outback and your family lived in farms, like in the 80s, 70s, 80s, the children used to sit, they were probably the pioneers of remote learning like we had in COVID, because they would sit by the walkie-talkie station and they would be clicking on the walkie-talkie. The teacher would be teaching them, and they'd all be sitting in front of this wireless, or it was called the wireless, but it was a speaker radio.
Yeah.
And then they would repeat back to the teacher. So I kind of imagine that that's kind of what the sort of education he had, homeschooled, that sort of thing. Then he gets, as you say, taught by a small green man he gets taught roughly by an old man who gets sliced in half. Then a green man in a swamp. If you think it's like, it took me, I don't know how long it took you, but it took me 4 years to qualify to be a teacher. Clearly, I believe that Luke Skywalker didn't use enough positive reinforcement with Ben Solo.
No, there was definitely some issues there. But then again, you also have his sister. She must have had like a really comprehensive education. I mean, she was a full-time senator when she was 18.
So if you
and from that we know that she was in like this junior senator assembly, because she is in one of the books when she's going on like a field trip.
So if you look at Leia's sort of education, right? So if you look from Kenobi, we all know that from Kenobi and from Claudia Gray's books, she went to college senate school, and the whole dynamics of school was there. There were the popular kids, there were the frat boy, sports boy kids, and then there were the good girls, Leia and Holdo, and the whole going out on field
trip. Holdo is pretty cool. I mean, she has all these colors in her hair. She's not just a good girl sitting in the back, raising her hand, knowing all the answers.
And in the books, in the books, they play a good game.
But on the other hand, I think her mother, Padme, she was probably the good girl sitting in the back, raising her hand all the time, knowing all the answers.
I did consult with Wikipedia because I went down the rabbit hole of Google and AI. When you think to yourself, oh my God, let's Google and see what it says, education and teaching in Star Wars. Oh, the school at Atten is called Middle School Gamma. It has a large gymnasium, desks, and a classroom. This one is actually from Culture Slate, where I'm reading that one. There is one unique type of regular schooling environment that we have seen in Star Wars, particularly recently, and that's frontier school housing with a singular room and a class of students of various ages all learning together. We see this on Navarro in The Mandalorian, and we get a mention of a very likely similar school in Mos Pelgo, also known as Freetown. So it seems to me that outback, that remote learning, as you say, there's no real way of policing that or making it go.
No.
But Amidala's one, there is a state school in Naboo that I Googled and found, and it was absolutely hilarious. I was like looking at it going, oh, bloomin' heck.
The whole thing with the Naboo system is crazy. You shouldn't be like elected head of state when you're 14.
Wow.
And princess, and that wasn't even her first. No, you might be smart and all, but you are not ready to rule a planet at that age.
Well, you're not anyway, are you? You are a de facto leader, aren't you really? It's called the Theed Royal Academy, and it is a school in Naboo where Padme Amidala was educated. We've talked about the Imperial Academy, the Chandrila Academy. That's where Mon Mothma.
Of course. And I mean, and there you have this strange system that we see in Endor with all these young Chandrila women on Coruscant who wants to like hook up with the old traditions. And there is some kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say school situation, but some kind of teaching situation. This older woman who assembles these younger women and teach them the right way on the Chandrila culture.
There are Jedi academies that are mentioned. Then you've got your Imperial academies. And that was an interesting one because Dedra O'Meara talks about that, doesn't she, in Andor?
Yeah, I mean, she was in like an orphanage and then straight into some kind of school system and then the Imperial Academy.
And I didn't know this, but did you know that Han Solo was expelled from an Imperial Academy?
Yeah, he was.
When did that come out?
That's in the old, not the oldest Han Solo books, but the ones who came out in the 90s, which was basically spelled out Han's history. It's his big goal in life is to finally be able to go to the Imperial Academy and become a proper starfighter pilot, which is very similar. And this is what I like with the film Solo. They did pick up quite a lot of his backstory from those 3 books. Yeah, he gets expelled. I think it's a prank. He blows up the mascot moon of Carida. Yeah, he and a friend.
Why do you remember these things?
I read those books quite a lot. Second book simply starts with him being drunk. No, it has to do with Chewie in that story, because the second book starts with him being drunk, wondering why that hairy oaf won't get away from his side. His life is ruined because he's been expelled from the academy. Everything he has left are the boots, and that's why he was wearing those Imperial officer boots. Basically, that's all he has. And then he has a Wookiee following him.
That's all he's got
around.
left from his expulsion. Yeah. You're right, mate. You did all that, and now that's it. Clear off.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark fanthatracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
And then, of course, we see the schooling of the...
But I would also say, like, the Imperial Academy back then in the old books, I mean, it was a military academy. So you have gone through the school system and then you apply to become an Imperial officer. I'm guessing like Sandhurst.
The Officers Academy and for the British Army, definitely. And then if you move on to the stormtroopers, like think of them being brought up in Camino. They must have had some sort of schooling, regimented upbringing, etc.
Yeah, the clone, and that is what you see in Attack of the Clones as well. You see all these young clones sitting with like their headsets on, doing things on screen. That's obviously some kind of education going on there.
Yeah, I forgot you saw that. Yeah, but, and here's the interesting bit, it's all very didactic teaching, isn't it? It's all very, here you are, either you sit in front of the screen or you sit in front of the whatever, this is what you've got to do and this is how you've got to do it.
We don't see any like individualism. I mean, if we're just talking about films and TV series, what we've seen from teaching, it's either like this mentorship with a Jedi Master and his Padawan or her Padawan, or it's
coaching.
Sit on a screen and follow everything within this little box. You don't really see anything in between. Now, as we say, in the books, you find other examples as well, but what we've seen just on screen, I'm not too impressed by the school system in that galaxy. But what I'm getting it again is I'm guessing like for the higher education, you will have a lot of entrance tests simply because you can't have a unified school system and people have been brought up in all kinds of ways. And I'm guessing there you get this individual, either you care about school because you want to join the Imperial Academy, or you learn the basics and then you go out, help your uncle on his moisture farm, and that's it.
Those 2 choices and that's it, job done. But do you remember when Din Djarin leaves Grogu in a school? Din Djarin temporarily leaves Grogu in a school in Navarro. Yeah. I have a vague recollection of that episode. Yeah. So that comes back to what you were saying about imagine trying to teach a Grogu. How do you teach a 50-year-old baby? Oh, that's my husband. That's near impossible.
and actually, and I'm thinking the other way around, as I mentioned. I mean, there must be different kind of species who are, when you're old, by the time you're 20, and maybe that's why you get this accelerated learning system as well, which you have on Naboo with Padme Amidala. I mean, she was queen by 14. Maybe it's built on some kind of system before that was built up, not around humans, but some other kind of species that have a shorter lifespan. And you have the junior senator program as well, where you have young teenagers getting ready to rule the galaxy. And maybe it's actually built up around some species where you are an adult by the time you're 10. And then it was just transferred to humans as well. And they have to have this accelerated learning.
There's the whole thing that we all say to kids and young people, work hard, go to school, be educated and all that sort of stuff. You don't see much education in Star Wars, but yet they all seem pretty educated and they all seem to be pretty sensible, don't they?
Yeah. It's like they have picked something up anyway. But yeah, the formal education is not something that I'm too impressed by. Also, if you think about it, like quantity-wise, when you have such a large galaxy with millions and billions of people and species and everything, like you can get the elite pupils who can handle this hard education and become the leaders, and the rest, if someone falls through the cracks, it doesn't really matter.
Well, it doesn't really matter because actually all those sorts of things and those skills that we get taught in our schools aren't really applicable in the Star Wars universe, are they?
And once again, I'm just taking Padme as a good example. She might have been an intelligent woman, but I think she might have benefited a bit from like a normal school situation, meeting boys, getting her first crush. I mean, I think it's quite obvious here that both Anakin and Padme, for all their education and all their skills, they were not emotionally mature because they hadn't really learned how to handle emotions and the complications of life. So that's definitely a failing of both the Royal Academy of Theed and the Jedi Academy.
It's the type of education or life that isn't acceptable now. It's classed as labor almost, isn't it?
Yeah. I have friends who teach in that year in the late teens, the 13 to 16, 17-year-olds. Personally, I can't stand them, but that's me. I can take care of them for like 1.5 hours, do educational programs. But from my friends who are teachers, they say what's most important there is this development. You can follow and you can influence them to become adults. And I mean, Padme never had that.
No.
And probably Anakin didn't either. They never went through this journey. So they are quite lost. They are not mature. They have all the skills and all the knowledge, but they can't handle the real world.
Well, they're almost thrown into stuff without the life experiences or changes they should have had, really. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Just being like in a classroom for a couple of years with people your own age would probably have helped. Anakin probably had at the Jedi Academy, but with the Jedi Academy, you have all these attachments are forbidden, quite stunted emotions.
Relationships are forbidden, and you can't bond with anybody, and you have to be calm and all this sort of stuff. And we know that humans are none of that. But maybe that's why the midichlorian count counts, because they do then have that.
This is Susanna Malik from Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and this is Fanta Tracks. Is it Fanta Track? I'm blind. I couldn't read it. Fanta.
I'm still going to use that.
Are you? Then use it. Even like this dumb broad can't speak English.
Also, on a more positive note with education, we have to talk about one thing that's sadly disappeared. And that's, of course, the University of Alderaan, which seemed to have been this great place where you did work with practical and theoretical knowledge, and it's always talked about, and they had these great collections, and that seemed to have been like the most prestigious place to go if you didn't go to an imperial university. And I think it's important that it's one of the few places that seem to have an emphasis not just on the science part, also on humanities and arts and things. And that's also, I think, for me at least, I mean, I'm coming from the humanities side, that physics, science, technology is important, but in order to understand the world, you need to have humanities. You can't only have quantity and analyze data, you have to understand the data as well. And that seemed to have been what they did in Alderaan.
Alderaan, to be fair, seems to have been sort of like the bastion of many sort of things that developed people and their humanity and their humility and their regal, it seemed to, you think of Bail Organa and all that, Princess Leia.
Now, it should be said in that Han Solo trilogy that I talked about earlier, Han Solo ends up on Alderaan and goes to a student pub, and he gets so sick of all these early 20s know-it-all who think they know everything about the world because they have the good grades and they go to university, and they are so snobbish, and he didn't like them at all, which maybe influenced what he thought about Leia. You know that scene? And he goes into the student pub and he just makes a joke of all these educated students that he's smarter than them and they don't know anything, even if they can just quote the book. And it's a kind of situation like that with Han as well. He goes in there, yeah, they can quote the book. They think they are the greatest ever, the smartest kids, and they are like just snobby, posh, and not something. And he just can't stand them.
Book-driven, theory-driven. My mum would always say textbook answers, and it's textbook answers for life, if you know what I mean. And I feel that's where we're sort of talking about the sort of the Amidala, the Anakins are, and their answers are textbook because they don't know any different. It's just a really interesting way of doing it. So here's the
maybe that's another reason why Tarkin and the Empire wanted to get rid of Alderaan. They didn't like the university.
Well, because it
was also a bastion of art, humanities, not just a cold, calculating empire.
It was free thinking. So come on then. Where would you like to go? I think we know the answer to you.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. I would definitely have gone to Alderaan. And I'm hoping that I would have been to one of the off-planet campuses or on a field trip when the Death Star showed up.
Yeah. Me? Would I have liked to have been home educated in Tatooine? Harsh life, though. It's a harsh life being a farmer, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All the sand.
Yeah. I probably would have fitted in an imperial school or, a regimented school. I think a lot of people would find that very hard to believe of me now. But if you were to ask my mother the question, I was a very studious person. I didn't really upset the apple cart. I did what the teachers told me to do. I probably would be okay.
I would probably also have been very okay at the accelerated Naboo system of schooling because then I wouldn't actually have gotten like challenges. I would have definitely have been stunted emotionally, but I would probably have thrived in that kind of system of accelerated learning.
In that sort of sense, I would have been good, but I don't do well in exams. I am very much coursework driven. Oh, you are good in exams?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm terrible. See, the last exam I sat in university, that was it. I vowed I would never, ever sit an exam again as long as I lived, because for me, it was just hell on earth. So that's probably why I would be better at something like the Jedi Academy or a free thinking course in the Alderaan University, because of something practical, and I would not have survived. I don't think I would have been successful in the exam system. I would have been a good student and I work very hard. But when it comes to exam results, forget it.
No, I'm pretty good at exams.
So we would see you in the Alderaan system.
I would probably start like in the Naboo system, and then hopefully I would transfer to the University of Alderaan and learn some life skills there as well.
Yeah, I think you'd probably see me in the Jedi Academy because it's more practical, shall we say. You don't seem to have to learn so many facts, but you just have to do as you're told, but being practical. And you would find Johanna in the University of Alderaan.
In the library.
Living her best life. This brings us to the end of our episode after our long summer break.
But now we're back.
And now we're back again. You'll catch us again in our next episode. We hope you have enjoyed it. We'd love to hear if anybody does have any comments or listens.
What school would you have preferred to be if you lived in a galaxy far, far away, and could pick these different kinds of education models that we've seen?
The old education theorists that I've studied, some of them would be turning in their graves with the old Star Wars methodology of education is what I'm going to say. But as always, Johanna, it was a cracking evening. I'm so glad we get to chat and talk about Star Wars.
As always.
It's
always a pleasure.
Have you got any Star Wars events coming up?
The next for me will probably be Comic-Con Stockholm. That's around Halloween, so 31st of October, 1st of November. That's the main thing. I might have a small thing where I'm just going off with the Nordic Garrison to do a small troop quite locally the weekend before, so yeah. But Comic-Con will be the next main thing.
I was hoping to make Echo Base in the Kingfisher Centre, but Unfortunately, I'm away on a conference with my school, so I don't get back in time. So that's a bit rubbish. I'm a bit disappointed about that.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links at fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fanthatracks TV and Fanthatracks Radio. Thanks to James Sample for the Fanthatracks intro and our Planet Leia opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes arrive on Fridays at 7 p.m. UK time as part of the Friday night rotation, and our weekly video show Good Morning Tatooine goes live Sundays at 9 p.m. UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fanthatracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
We love you.
You know.
Coming up next on Fanthatracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.